Have you ever held back on pitching an idea or posting your content or raising your rates because you heard this little voice whisper, "Who do you think you are?" Then this episode's for you. Welcome back to the Jameela Adams Experience, the podcast for women over 40 to rediscover their strength and purpose. I'm your host, Jameela Adams, website design and marketing consultant and entrepreneur. So, yes, that little voice that we always hear in the back of our mind saying, "Hey, who are you and what do you think you're doing?" So, this is one of the topics I think it's something that we all should, bring up because as an entrepreneur, especially a woman over 40, there are days when you just feel like, what am I doing? How did I get here? And how can I have a purpose in what I do with my business? So, when that little voice that you hear does not shut up and it gets really loud, trust me, it just makes us feel like, what are we doing? So, we're going to talk about your inner critic. We're going to find ways to diminish it. So let's be real. Our inner critic can make us feel like it can be like an unpaid troll living run free in our minds. And the problem is it just doesn't make us feel small. It actually blocks our growth. And hey, when we are blocking our growth in a business, we're not getting our money. So let's reel it in and put it together. So for entrepreneurs, like I said, especially for women over 40, not every woman, and I'm going to put that out there because I'm pretty sure it's like, well, I didn't feel like that. And that's great, sis. Love it for you. But for those who had to have that moment with themselves and say, what am I doing? This critic causes us to like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I can't do this. So it keeps us from showing our brilliance and it keeps us from speaking up and it keeps us from doing what we need to do. So here's the good news about it. You don't have to let your inner critic run the show. And that's an awesome thing. And I know if you look at my previous episodes, you talk about why is she always talking about voice and listening and all this other stuff? It's because as an entrepreneur, our voice is what draws people in. So when we are bombarded with negative thoughts about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, it kind of just ruins everything. So this is what we're going to do about our inner critic. We're going to call out the lies. Most of what the critic says is fear. It's just fear disguised. So when we hear, who do you think you are? Or nobody wants to hear this. When you name the issue, you take away its power. Remember, you have a say in who to listen to. Never lose sight of that. So the other thing too we need to do is reframe the narrative. Flip the script when it says, I'm not experienced enough, or they're going to think I'm too out of touch with this idea. But the thing is, you have a unique perspective that others don't. So you have to remember that. So it's not about faking confidence. It's about seeing the truth from an empowering angle. So by reframing it, you're taking your power back. So the other test, which really takes heart in me, it's the best friend test. Would you allow what you say to yourself? Would you say that to your best friend? No, you wouldn't. So you have to be compassionate to yourself. You got to use that voice and say, you know what? I wouldn't say that to my best friend. And I'm going to not say that to myself because when that inner voice tries to dismiss your experience and skills, you got to put it in check. So don't do that to yourself. The other thing you need to do is create a self-coaching ritual. What I mean by self-coaching ritual, you can do journaling, affirmations, go for a walk. And I'm pretty sure in previous episodes I talked about this. In fact, one of the blog posts I did in the problem and solution series, it's building confidence, tools and techniques. You can check that out on my website. It's one of those things we have to learn to anchor our why because fear thrives it thrives on distraction. And you have to go back to realizing why did I start my business? It's because I have a product or a service that I want to share with others. So you got to get these thoughts out of your head. So one of the things that I've researched is that Ethan Kross, a psychologist, put a book out called Chatter: The Voice in Your Head, Why It Matters, and How to Harness It. And quoted, "The voice in our head can be our best coach or our worst critic. Learning how to shift it from chatter to constructive self talk is one of the most powerful tools we have for thriving." And it's true. When we put down the negative thoughts in our head about ourselves, about how we do things, we need to buffer it with something positive. So, unfortunately, the inner critic is not going to fully disappear. I wish it could, but it's not. And that's okay. But when we coach ourselves through these moments and keep amplifying our voice and keeping it authentic, we're golden. And I know I've talked about this in previous episodes. I'll leave all the resources in the description. Because here's the truth: no one else can bring what you bring to the table. And the more you own that, the less power that critic has over you. So keep that in mind whenever you step out to make a call, whenever you go into a new networking event. Just remember, silence the critic. So let's wrap this up, shall we? Your inner critic thinks that it's here to protect you from embarrassment or making a fool out of yourself. But the reality of it is, it keeps you from stepping up and stepping into your purpose. So I want all of us to feel empowered. I want us to walk into a room with our heads held high and just be ourselves, our authentic selves, and feel that way when we're on a networking call, both in person and virtually. So we have to keep reminding ourselves that we are enough. So if this episode hit home, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend who needs a little encouragement, and leave a review. It helps me keep bringing these conversations to light. Also, if you're ready to take your authentic voice and build a brand that reflects it, check out my website, or check out my work, I should say, at JameelaAdamsAtYourService.com, because your voice deserves a platform. So until next week, I want you to be inspired, be inspiring, be encouraged, be encouraging. But most of all, I want you to be you and keep silencing that inner critic. And take care.